Good morning, everyone. It's Tess, and today is tip 93. And I've been looking a little bit at carbs and trying to determine how I want to approach carbs as I move forward into what I hope is the last time that I know I'm going to continue every day to educate and learn so that I can master this weight loss journey for the rest of my life. And some things keep coming up in like one of Doc V's groups about carbs and are they bad for you, and I don't want to eat a green smoothie because it has too many carbs. And so I decided that I was going to look at carbs because, oh, good morning, Sam. I was going to look at carbs because there's so much talk and so much controversy about whether we're supposed to eat carbs or not. And I'm going to be honest that I don't monitor carbs like I used to. And the reason I don't is that I'm not eating processed carbs. Any carbs that I'm getting are naturally occurring in fruits and vegetables. And I'm trying to really, maybe I guess, get as back to normal, as back to natural as I can. Avoiding added sugars and avoiding processed foods because I think I feel healthier. Like I've said in the past, when I eat foods, I kind of judge how my body feels, and then I decide, is this something I'm going to keep in my diet? So what I decided to do is, good evening. Sam must be on the other side of the world. Good evening, good evening. So I looked up articles in Harvard Health from Harvard Medical School and Cleveland Clinic about carbs and are they bad for us or are they okay? Because it just keeps coming up. People don't want to eat green smoothies because they think they have carbs. And what kind of happened when I looked at Harvard Health and Harvard Medical School and Cleveland Clinic, what was interesting to me is when I started looking at what they were talking about with carbs, I can see how a lot of fad diets spun off of this idea of carbs, because kind of what they talked about in like I said, Harvard Health and Cleveland Clinic is the one thing about carbs is if you limit your carbs, it deprives your body of a main source of fuel. Hi, Christine. And we want to fuel our bodies. So I kind of dug into it a little further, and one of the things we all hear about is that carbs will cause you to gain weight. And through these articles that I was reading, the type and the quantity of carbs you eat is what will cause you to gain weight. Good morning, Joan. And I think that we've gotten so hung up into carbs being bad, we're not evaluating what type of carbs we're eating and how much of those carbs we're eating. I'm trying to get back to a well-balanced diet, and I want like real foods to get rid of processed as much as possible, because I am finding that I feel better if I'm fueling with foods as close to how they come out of the ground as possible. I know that's not always perfect, but that's how I'm trying to approach. And I do feel better. My body feels better. My vitamin counts are good. I'm still losing weight. I'm happy with what it's doing for me, and I hope that if you're struggling, maybe you can give it a try and see if it works for your body. And if it doesn't, keep learning and growing and trying until you figure out what it is your body needs. But what they were talking about, like this myth about carbs cause weight gain, again, it's the type and the quantity. And what they were trying to say is that many carbs, especially if they're processed, have extra calories and extra added sugars, and I avoid added sugars. That's part of my bariatric journey. I monitor and make sure I'm 12 grams or less, especially added sugars. I'm really focused on added sugars. I don't want to worry about it if it comes naturally in fruits and vegetables, but if it's added, I don't need it and I don't want it. Again, it kind of talks about the foods that will cause you to gain weight that are carb heavy are things like desserts, white bread, rice, pasta, chips, crackers, pretzels. Well, what's the key there? They're all processed. The other thing it talked about is carbs that are good for you are carbs that are with fiber, and because they have fiber, they require less insulin. So it doesn't push out a lot of insulin to grab the sugar like processed high sugar carbs do. And it actually raises your blood sugar much slower, and it keeps you full longer. So again, that's back to that natural. There's no sugar added. It doesn't cause the spike that the sugar added processed foods cause. So that's why they're better for you. But what I found interesting about that is I remember in diet programs in the past, high fiber foods, high fiber was the fad for a while. Well, okay, I can see where it spun off. It spun off from this idea that fiber foods are good for you. So a lot of our fad diets spin off of what they've learned medically, but they take one little piece of it and spin it into a diet, and it might work short term, but is it something you can maintain for the rest of your life? So I thought that was interesting. And these are, like I said, Harvard Health, Harvard Medical School, and Cleveland Clinic. It says, and we've talked about this in some of the past groups. I know Christine will be familiar with this. If you're looking at like trying to manage carbs, the Cleveland Clinic actually recommended 40 to 45% carb intake, 30 to 35% fat intake, lean protein 30%. And there's all kinds of like programs that'll talk about macro balancing, and that's where you balance your fats, your proteins, and your carbs. But again, I think if we can learn our bodies, try to introduce more natural foods as much as possible, because it's really kind of hurt my heart a little bit when everyone throws the idea. If you're throwing the idea of a green smoothie out the window because you absolutely don't want the vegetables, okay, then own that that's what you don't want. But it's hard for me to think that eating natural nutrients is bad for my body, because I even know that from struggling with anemia, dark green leafy vegetables contain protein, which has helped me overcome some of those obstacles. So I'm trying really hard not to dismiss the things that I think are natural. Another myth they talked about is that only white foods contain carbs. Well, we've already kind of talked about that. It's the type of foods. We have natural foods that contain carbs that are definitely better for us than processed high sugar foods. And some of these are like high fiber carbs, include legumes, whole grains, and fruits. High protein carbs are legumes and like yogurt and dairy. So these are like milk. So you can get carbs that have protein or that have fiber. But again, when you start looking at them, they're not the highly processed sugar added carbs. Another thing that they brought up in this article is, again, we say no white. Well, the caution with the no white is that there are some fruits and vegetables that are really good for us that are white, like potatoes. Again, the issue with potatoes is when you add sugars and when you add cheeses and milks and butters and creams, they're no longer close to their natural form. They've become highly processed. But potatoes in general are full of phytonutrients, potassium, fiber, and vitamin C. These are all things that we need, and if we're not getting them, we have to supplement them. So one of the things that was talking about is that if you want to include carbs in your diet and you want to stay as close to the high fiber, natural carbs, the ones to kind of keep in your arsenal of food that you're going to eat are cauliflower, potatoes, nuts and seeds, onions and garlic, beans, jicama, ginger, apples. And jicama, that one always, I love that name. But these are carbs that are good quality carbs that'll provide you with phytonutrients, fiber, protein in some cases. So there's some good qualities to them. But when you start processing them and adding sugars or adding fats, you do reduce the value you get from them. Another item that came up through these Harvard Medical and Cleveland Clinic is that a lot of people are concerned that fruit is bad for you because it'll cause weight gain. Well, the one thing they wanted to point out is that fruit is dense in nutrients. Again, it's full of fiber and vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. These are all things that when we go back into these processed diets and we eliminate all these natural fruits and vegetables, we end up buying vitamin supplements to add the things that the natural foods have in them. So I guess we have to decide what path is it that we want. Do we want the all natural path and maybe be able to reduce some of the vitamins and nutrients? Because bariatric patients, you do need to watch it close and follow up with your doctor. I'm not medical, but I'm trying to learn what can best fuel my body and keep me on this journey forever. This is the second time I've lost over 100 pounds. I don't want to do it again. I want to own my body. I want to learn it. I want to understand, and I want to master it, because I want the best years to be ahead of me. And I hope that something will resonate with you and make something better for you. So it really kind of reminds us all that being completely restrictive may have consequences to it. There are some great carbs out there, but they are not highly processed and they are not sugar filled. And a lot has to do with how much you're eating. You really want to eat just no more than a handful. You want to pick carbs that are higher with protein and come with vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and no sugar added. And I guess I would add in that you don't want them to be highly processed. If you're looking to fuel your body in a better way, maybe trying to go back to natural might be something to give it a try. And remember that when you start adding sugars and fats and highly processed, like if you take your raspberries and your strawberries and you throw them on a scoop of ice cream, you know that they're not as valuable to you. So again, they're saying about a handful of any kind of fruit or vegetable or nut is beneficial to you. So you might want to think about that. If you're struggling with your diet and you're not able to succeed, that's kind of what I do, is I evaluate at any point in time. If my weight loss starts to slow down, am I getting my water in? Am I getting my green smoothies in? Can I switch a little bit of a vitamin or a mineral, or meaning like fruits and vegetables? I'll look up what vitamins and nutrients are in certain fruits, vegetables, and I'll try to make changes to my diet. So maybe there's something in there for you. If you're struggling, maybe you can give it a try to add some natural carbs that are not highly processed and that are not added sugars. And even when I eat fruits and vegetables, I look for added sugars because I don't want the added sugars. And at least here in the US, our labels are now telling us what's added. And I think that's where carbs got a bad name for so many years, is that things were being added and we never knew. Is it the fruit? Like you can buy frozen fruit and there's a lot of added sugar, or you can buy it no sugar added. And I think we just have to become educated and stand up for ourselves. My wish for you is the healthiest possible life, to feel good so that you have energy to spend doing the things that you love with your family and friends. I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you for listening. And if it falls into your program, maybe just try a handful of raspberries or strawberries. There might be some great value added to your body that you don't even know about. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, and thank you for listening. I appreciate you all very much. Bye-bye.